Hello my fellow data scientists. Today we're going to see how to perform data analysis and data modelization using ggplot and some other very handy functions from the tidyverse package. So let's begin. To begin with, I would like to explain with what I'm working on. I'm working in Markdown. So Markdown is basically the same thing as working with script, but here is the same script. Instead, I have this kind of thing which are chunk, and I can also use comments here. I don't need to put tags to make comments. I can just mark it in plain words. The good thing about Markdown is that I can compute it with one click when my script is working, and I will have sort of a report. And I can choose to use PDF, HTML, you can even use PowerPoint files, etc, etc. So the good thing is that here you can see that I have titles, I can work comments without the hashtags, and I will have also the output of the console. I can also have my graphs, and I can also have, I think I have something there about it. I don't have data frames in the good manner, but I can also show data frames in the good way. So to begin with, you need obviously to install the packages that we need. We will use today GGPLOT2, tidyr, and GGPLOT2. So let's begin. Most of the packages that you will use and the tutorial that are based on these packages will use the implemented datasets that are in the packages. So here we can call on iris, and you can see if I'm just gonna click and show it here. No, it doesn't want. Okay, so I have got here. Okay, so it's a very simple data frame. Okay, but I prefer to work with real data frames. So here is a data frame that I'm produced working on mice, where we dose the bile acids from the feces here. I also have some other files in plasma or in the tissues, but just to stay simple, we will use only the feces part. Okay, so you have two ways for importing your data. You have three ways. You can click here in the right side, and you can choose the files that you want to import. It's a very friendly user interface and a way of doing it, but I don't really like it. The best way is to use the path of a file. If you are working on the same directory as your files, you just need to use these ports. But in case you have multiple files in multiple directory, you can just use this. You do just a copy paste. Just here you can see I can use the full path, or I can put this sign here and it will do the same thing. And if I do Control Enter, I will have my file, my dataset. Okay, so this dataset looks like this. Okay. You can also use a very practical function that is file choose. File choose will open a browser, and you can find the files that you want in your directories. But if you want to redo your scripts in more automatically way, it's better to use this, because I can just come back in the morning and press Control Enter, or just knit my files. Okay. If you are using Excel files instead of CSV, just like I'm doing here, you can use the package read Excel and use either read Excel or read XLSX, for example. Okay, so you can have XLS, etc. Now, let's just view our CSV. So this is one way of working with a CSV. You can have all the parameters that you want to analyze, and your patients, or here is the mice as rows and the treatments, etc. And you can put more, and you can imagine that we have different genetical background or etc. as other factors, and we will use this to make the statistics or even to make the graphs. Just a quick reminder of how you can talk to R within the datasets. So data frames are basically two vectors. Vectors in rows and vectors in columns. Okay. So for only the columns, you can use the $sign. And if I press tabulation here, it will give me all the columns that I have on my datasets. If it is my matrix, you can't use this because matrix doesn't have column names. It has, but you can't dialogue like this. It's better to use data frames for that. You can also use the brackets. If I'm using this, if I put one before the comma, we have my first row. If I put one after the comma, I will have the first column. Okay, these are equal. Okay, and this are also equal. So you can use the string name of the column or the row that you want, or you can use a numeric value to say that I want this column or this row. Okay, basically you have two ways of doing plots. You can use the base plot, which is a null language from R, which do quite beautiful plots, but I found it more difficult to use than ggplot, and it's getting harder and harder if you want to make complex plots, whereas ggplot are kind of easy to work with. So here I'm just gonna do this. Okay, so this is what I can get from the base plot function. So you can after that put some text, you can put dots, etc, etc. Or I won't make a video on it because I'm not using this package anymore. I really prefer to use ggplot. Just to explain very quickly, you can either say box plot or plot. You give the X and you give the Y, and after that you can give the colors that you want. Okay, and you will have this. If I want to use ggplot, the basic are a little bit more complex than the base plots. I will have to give the data that I'm working on, so the dataset here is CSV, and I will need to give this, the AES. What is it? AES stands for aesthetics. So this is all the parameters that you want to use to make your graphic, all the aesthetics parameters. So the X, the Y, the color to fill, the color to the color that you want to fill, for example, the box plot. But if I say color, it will be the lines, the output lines here, that will be colors. You can also say the line type if you are doing a line graph, etc, etc. So there is a lot of things that you can put in aesthetics. Okay, this is just the first part where you tell to R that you want to make a ggplot, and after that you will use these things, the geoms, which means the geometry that you want to use for your graph. So A is a box plot. So if I just select this line, I will have this sort of plot. Okay, so I have a box plot here, and I ask to get the treatment as X, and the TU-DCA as Y. And for the treatment, I want to fill my box plot by treatment. So here we have the legend. But I can also do a geom call, so for the column, a geom violin, and geom point, etc. So if I just play on the chunk, I will have this. So I just used GGRange to make a more complex overlay. And here it is. So we have the box plots, we have the columns, we have the violin plots, and we have the dot plots. So as you can see, this is very simple if you want a simple graph. After that, we can get in more complex things. For example, I can put geom plot, but I can also add geom points to my plot. Okay, selecting and here is my plot. So I have the box plot and the points. Okay, I can put some jitter instead of this. Okay, so jitter is basically the same thing as point, but they are overlaid like this. So in case you have a lot of points, it becomes really handy for me. I can also add geom violin. Okay, so this doesn't add anything to the graph, but it's just to show what you can do with this. Okay, so if we get more into the details, I can just use, for example, here alpha, which will give the transparency that I want to use. So here I use 30%, and you can see that my box plots are more transparent than before. Okay, so these are just the basics. After that, we have themes. So here here you have the classical, the BW, if I remember correctly, the BW theme. Personally, I really hate this one. I find it very ugly. But you can use this. For example, if I do this, so I'm storing my ggplot as an object, and then I'm adding the classic theme by putting a plus and the theme classic. I will have plots like this. So you can see that the gray background is removed, the grid is also removed, and we have a very more elegant theme. This will also, for some, control the text, the line, etc. Okay. After telling which theme I want, which main theme I want, I can also put theme after that with plus and modify it a little bit more. So here I just want to remove the legend because I already have my x axis here, so I don't want the legend, and I've removed the legend. You can also use BW, okay, etc, etc. So I will just compute the whole chunk and we will see what we have here. So here is the void theme, this is the minimal theme, etc, etc. So you have a lot of theme, you have a dark theme, etc, etc. If you want to modify a plot in ggplot, you will have to say for every element of a plot that you have. For example, here we have a grid, here we have ticks, just here we have the axis text, here we have the axis title, etc, etc. Okay, every element obey to 4 types of elements: an element text, an element line, element rect, and element blank. Blank is for removing an element, text is for every element that are text, element line for line, and element rect for rectangles. Okay, so here, if I'm redoing the first plot, oh, I forgot a parenthesis. Here, I want to remove the legend, so I select the legend position down. This is the only thing that doesn't obey to the element text, element line, or element rect rule. But if I want to remove the axis title here, the treatment, I will specify axis title point x. So to remove only the x title, I will specify element blank. And if I'm doing this, as you can see, the axis title has been removed. If I want here, if I want to remove the title X, the X title, but I want to control the X text on the axis and the axis line, for example, I just have to specify it and tell what thing I want to do. So here for the text is an element text, okay? So I'm using element text, and I just want to use a 30 angle degree, okay? And for the line, I want it to be a dashed line. So let's try it. Okay. So we can see that my axis text is angled with 30-degree angle, and here I have a dashed line. So you can have access to a lot of elements on the theme here. You can see that I can specify things for all the lines, all the rects, or all the text, and also the title, okay? But here for the axis title, it will input the element text things to the X and the Y title, etc, etc. So you can have a lot of things to remove or to change, either on the legends, on the grid, on the background, etc, etc. So you can remove a lot of things. The best way to learn about it is to play with it. I can't just list everything that you can do with ggplot just on this video. This is only an introduction. Okay, so if you want, you can use the iris data and try to play with it. So if I'm doing a plot background, for example, and I'm doing, so it's an element rect, I can say, so if fill, I want to fill it with a yellow color, okay, and the background is yellow, okay. So you can have a lot of things here. I don't know what we can do. Panel grid, yeah, I want to remove panel grid. Okay, panel grid, and I will use elements blank. And I have removed the grid. Now we will go a little bit deeper on the other elements of the ggplot. Okay, so you understand how to specify which data you want to use and how to plot it, either as a violin, a box plot, etc, etc. But now I want to control the colors that I'm using. For this, you will have to specify either if it's a fill or a color. Fill is for the interior, okay, and the color is for the line of the box plot, for example, here. So if I want to change the fill color, here, brown, orange, and pink, I will use a scale fill manual because I'm telling manually the colors that I want to use. Here we are, okay. If I change fill for color, sorry, we need to specify it here, color. Okay, I'm using the color. Okay, and here we have it's so if, and I can basically also specify fill at the same time use treatment in the exact same manner. Here, let's just add this here and change the color for the fill, and we will have both of the things. Okay. This isn't very practical because we lose the mean and other things that you can specify, but you can see that it's very simple to change. If I don't want to use manual colors, because you can have sometimes plot with a lot of box different group and you don't want to specify every group manually, you can use palettes that are coming with some packages. So yeah, I'm using the GSI package, which is a very cool and very nerdy package, because you can use Futurama, Simpsons, or even Rick and Morty as colors. The authors of this package try to reproduce the the color theme of those animate series. You can also have a little bit more serious colors as JAMA, AAS, etc. GCO also. So just let's take a look at it. So I'm using the same base scale fill, and instead of using manual, I'm using Futurama for this package. And we will see. Oh, I forgot to call my package. Okay, we'll have this. So I find this package very, very handsome, to be honest, and I'm using it on my publications. So if you want to have good, nice colors, I strongly suggest to use this package with this palette, or even another one. Okay, so now I want to go a little bit more on the depth of ggplot. I want to use both boxplot and jitter, and I want to specify different things. So I want to fill by treatment and color by treatment. So here this will end up with the same colors here, but if I'm doing scale fill AS, for example, and scale color, I don't know which one. Okay, here we will end up with two different color. Okay, one for the fill and one for the color. So you can basically do that. You can also change shapes and etc., but it's a little bit more complex, and you will have to try it on your own. Okay, so these are all the basics of ggplot that you need to know. So just to sum up a little, oops, you can, please, okay, thank you Windows, you can change every item on your ggplot, so the legend position, the legend font, you can put it in italic, in bold, etc. You can put some colors also on the text. You can use angle, you can increase the font, you can even change and specify new labels here, because for a publication I want to remove the underscore, for example, and I want it to be bold, so I can do that. I encourage you to go on online tutorial, maybe on STHDA, which are very nice tutorials. To be honest, I learned with those tutorials. And I can remove or change every part here, just as the grid. Okay, I can specify multiple things, such as geom boxplot plus a geom jitter, and I can also put violin. And I can use those things in aesthetics to change the way I'm showing the data. Okay, so here, for example, this is a very uncomplex dataset, but if we imagine that I have here a genetical background with two different groups, and I specify that I want to color my plot by the genetical background, we will have two box plots here, one for the first genetical background and one for the second one. So it's a bit sad that I didn't think of that earlier, but you will have to try. Just good luck. If you want to go deeper, you can also go either on the tutorials that are on STHA, or even on, I think there is some pretty good YouTube tutorials. One last thing that I want to show you is using either the wide version of a dataset or the long version. Here for now we have a wide version, so we have a column for every factor that I want to analyze, okay? But there is also another way to use datasets, is by using a long version. The long version will consist of using all the column names as a new column with the name of the parameters. Okay, so we will have TUDCA, THDCA, etc. And the new column which will take the values. So I just need to specify which columns I want to use as factor names and which I want to use as value. So the old version is gather and spread. Now you will have pivot longer and pivot wider. But I found both are really okay, and they are from the same package and the same guys that are working for RStudio. It's the tidyr that's belonging to the tidyverse wider package. So here is the gather example, but you can also use the pivot longer. So I'm using my dataset CSV. Okay. The key is the name for the factor, so the new column that I want to create, and value is the name of value. And in this function, I'm removing the columns that I don't want to be put as a long version. Okay, so here I want to have treatment and my number separate from the balance and the value. So let's just try here. And I have my CSV long version, so I will put them side by side. Okay. So, kind of missed my effect here. So here is the old version. Okay, so it's the wide version. As you can see, I have my factors, my parameters as columns, and here I have only 4 columns left. I have my biases, okay, and my value. So what did happen? You can see that I have my TUDCA here, and after that we have the same columns here for the mass number and the treatments. So what it did is basically doing a copy paste. It's on and on and on and on to get this long version. So we are getting a 16 by 16 here to a 31 to 480. Not sure if this is good. Yeah, okay, it's a 16 by 32 and a 480 by 4. What is the meaning of this? If I want to do a ggplot here for each biases, it will take me quite some time, and here I only have 32 columns. Okay, so either way I'm doing a loop or an apply function to do the ggplot for every column, or I can just use a long version, specify the same thing, so x as a treatment, y value because I want to use the numerical values. I want to fill, and I can fill by biases. So let's just try it. And here, for example, I have all my biases for the treatment. So here it's a stack bar plot, okay? But I can also make a ggplot. Oh, sorry. Here, ggplot CSV long, okay, AS, we'll just copy paste here, it's quite faster and quicker. Okay, and I don't want to fill by biases but by treatment here. And if I'm doing a gembox plot just like that, it will take all my values and add them. Okay, now I want to use the function facet wrap, or you can use facet grids, it's basically the same thing. And I will use this sign and I will say biases. And what it will do, it will use every different biases to make another facet. So I have my 3 treatments and my value as y, and here you can see that I have all my biases. So here I need to let loose of the y-axis because some, like the cholic acid, are very present in the mice, while some are almost undetectable. So I will just use up scales 3. Let's compute. Let's wait a little bit. Thank you, Windows. My computer is getting quite slow. Okay, so here you can see that we have different y-axis for every bile acids, and we can now look at it. So all the bile acids that are equal to 0 are really ugly because we don't detect them at all, but we can remove them in R. Okay, so this is another way to perform, but for this, or for the stack bar plot, or even what I've done here, you can't perform it with the wide version. On the contrary, if you don't want to show your data like this and you want to make a specific graph, you will want to use the wide version. And in sometimes I'm using the wide version. I'm doing a for loop to make, for example, a lot of analysis separately from etc. But you can also do it with the long version. It's just quite a little bit harder, but it's okay. You will succeed in no time if you are trying. So I've started with a wide version and I've gone for a long version, but you can do the exact opposite thing. So taking a long version and go for a wide version. So what I want to do here is to use these bile acids as my new call names, and here I want to get the values in the columns. Okay, so I just have to specify the dataset, the key. So here, because it's a vector that exists, I don't need anymore to put the quotes, and here the value. And if I'm doing this, I get the opposite thing, okay? And it's just as simple as that. This is actually a very important thing to understand and to use. Okay, so I think we are finished here because I don't want it to be too long and too hard. So just to sum up, you remember that you use the GGPLOT here to specify the dataset that you want to use, okay? So a dataset that is on your environment, okay? And with the aesthetics here, this thing, you will specify the X, the Y, and the colors that you want to use, either for the fill or for the color. There is a lot of other things you can specify line types by treatment if we wanted to make something about time maybe. And after that you will use the geometric that you want, so the box plot, a column, a bar plot, a point, etc., etc. You can use line, and you can also have ribbon, area, etc., etc. So you can use you can go on the net and try to see what you can do. You can also do heat maps with it, but you can do basically anything. You can specify the colors that you want to use. You can specify new labels, new titles, etc., etc. And one big important thing to know and to understand is the theme function. Okay, so every element is either removable or modifiable. Okay, so let's just sleep on that for a moment and try to redo this, okay? Okay, so I hope I didn't destroy your brain with this video. It's quite longer than I wanted at the beginning, but you can't rush R. And ggplot and moreover the tidyverse package is really the main thing with R. From the beginner to the advanced R user, you will always use ggplot and tidyverse packages. So if you are performing analysis on 16s or on engine analysis or even maybe IRINORSEC or I don't know, flow cytometry, everything that you want to do on R will end up with using ggplot. Okay, so usually it will be a wrapper function for the ggplot, but you can also extract those data and after that give it to ggplot and specify your own parameters that you want. But no matter what, you will always end up with ggplot2. Okay, so try to sleep on what we saw here and try to redo with maybe your own datasets, because it's quite nice to follow tutorials blindly because it will always work. But when you go on your own datasets, this is where it's getting harder and where you will learn the most. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to leave just a comment or like, it will be my great pleasure to reply. I also hope that you like R, or even if you are working on Python, these are really nice software, and you will feel that you are becoming free in comparison with maybe Prism or other statistical software that you can use. Anyway, thank you for watching and bye bye.